What's the benefit, the value, the strength of baptism after that celebration? What I want us to grasp today is that baptism is not just about the beginning of our faith, but baptism is about the ongoing grace that God gives us in our faith. To kind of think about maybe how many of us treat our baptism, I went back to the ancient African proverb, the Lion King. First of all, we remember the beginning of the Lion King, this wonderful birth of this new baby king named Simba, and the ceremony where all of the animal kingdom comes together to Pride Rock, and we lift up this baby Simba to announce a new king has been born, and we hold him up, and there's celebration, and there's excitement, and there's wonderful promise given there at the presentation of Simba, and it's a great moment. And for a lot of us, that's kind of like our baptism. As we think about the way that the story of the Lion King goes, that wonderful moment of celebration kind of hit the rocks, right? He runs away into the wilderness. He goes out to be a scavenger in the wilderness. And he is living there in a Hakuna Matata kind of existence, trying to forget who he was and become something else. And we see him try and make this entirely new life. But his new life was actually a cause for failure and duress because he had a role to play in this world that he was not fulfilling. And there's this important moment where Simba finally comes to realize that he cannot keep running from his past. And it's a story where Simba is brought to a reflection, a pool of water, to look at his reflection. And as he looks into that water, he sees again the face of his father. And as he sees the face of his father, he turns from his journey of scavenging and running and returns to his calling of being a king. That is really what it means to remember our baptism and why we must remember our baptism. Because that day of being lifted up and celebrated at our baptism is something that the world wants to pull away from our memory, wants to pull away from our identity, and it wants to stuff us with the ideas that your identity is found in your sexuality or your job or your marriage, or your identity is found in your parenting. Any number of things this world is saying, make your identity about this. And it is taking us from this place of a kingly birth into the wilderness to live as a scavenger. But just like Simba was brought back to his understanding of who he was, we also need to look back at the waters of baptism to remind ourselves who we truly are